Everyone. Today's class is going to be a little unusual. It's going to be more or less a conglomeration of various research findings covering a lot of areas as it pertain to people and emotions and the results of those emotions. I'm going to go through one general topic at a time, and I hope you find it interesting. And the point of the whole lesson is to encourage you and help you see, not you so much, but the audience I'm recording for as well, the relevancy and the validity of the Bible, specifically the New Testament, for today. I'm going to touch on stress. I'm going to touch on just things like anger, unforgiveness, and what they've discovered, but also on forgiveness, also on love. And I think it'll be more vividly apparent that God had a reason for everything He put in the New Testament, everything. Stress can cause, catch this, this is a fact. I'll show you the evidence in a minute, but scientific research. Stress, we know, can cause a lot of problems. Did you know stress can also cause your brain to physiologically deteriorate? Let me share some research with you. This is done by, excuse me, by a research project by the federal government, and it was done through something called brain imaging. Magnetic resonant imaging, that's simply seeing like almost an x-ray and a picture of different areas of the body, including the brain, based on radio waves and electromagnetic energy. It says this: animal studies and brain imaging studies in people have shown that chronic stress can have a similar effect on the brain. Dr. Bruce S. McColl of Rockefeller University explains hyperactivity of the stress response results in changes over time in the circuitry of the brain. Brain cells bombarded by stress signals, thoughts, a result of thoughts. Brain cells bombarded by stress signals have little recovery time and eventually start to shrink and cut connections to other brain cells. The network that coordinates our thoughts, emotions, and reactions thus starts to rearrange. Over time, entire regions of the brain can grow or shrink. That may explain why studies have linked higher levels of stress hormones with lower memory, focus, and problem-solving skills. I'd like to think that if many employers were aware of this, they would do their best to try to reduce the stress level in their employees. I know I would, big time. Two things that affect how much stress people feel are self-esteem and a sense of self-control. Self-esteem and self-control. Self-esteem is when you have faith in yourself, you handle things more, I think, efficiently, effectively, and it's less stressful. But also that need for control, you feel empowered. If you kind of feel like you have choices and you can take action on those choices, it reduces stress. Many times when I work with clients, I help them look, when it's practical and feasible, to look at pros and cons of certain choices they have. They start realizing they have choices. May only one option in their mind and heart. Only one option is appropriate, understandably. But nevertheless, when they realize they have choices, it can be empowering and reduce stress and anxiety and depression and anger and increase self-esteem. Love can reduce stress. We've talked about that in the past. Love can reduce stress. Anybody that's been in some of my past classes, you remember this. Does anybody remember what that is? What oxytocin is?
It's the chemical balance that we experience when we're feeling love and
Perfect.
heightened.
Perfect. Perfect. It is a chemical. It's based on, I think, chemically it's a protein, but it's also it's a hormone that's released in the brain when we feel loved or loving. But not just love. You know, it's called the love hormone. It's also called the nurturing hormone. They see an increased level of this in new mothers. But this can be triggered. Catch this, please. This can be triggered in your brain for your benefit, reducing stress, increasing your health, ultimately increasing your lifespan if it's habitual. And that is just simply acts of kindness. And get this, words of kindness. Life and death in the power of the tongue. Wow. I'm going to show you the research on this. Yeah, I think it's going to fascinate you and I hope really encourage you. Oxytocin is called love hormone, nurturing hormone, trust and bonding hormone. Research. The power of love, again done by the federal government, an agency under their tutelage and support. The power of love. It says hugs and cuddles have a long-term effect. How often do you hug? Do you like to sit close and hold each other's hands? Recent research shows it's good for your health. Between loving partners, between parents and children, or even between close friends, physical affection can help the brain, the heart, and other body systems you might never have imagined. Oxytocin makes us feel good when we're close to family and other loved ones, including pets. There's been an entire area of therapy about pets can help people that have no or very little human contact and feel alone, despondent, and depressed. I don't blame them. A pet can live their whole life. Isn't that amazing? It does this by acting through this, what scientists call the dopamine reward system. Brain chemicals, the feel-good hormones, the feel-good chemicals. Dopamine is a brain chemical that plays a crucial part in how we perceive pleasure. Oxytocin does more than make us feel good. It lowers the levels of stress hormones in the body. It's almost like, in a sense, this is my understanding. When this increases, stress decreases. And you're going to hear us mention something called, the stress hormones. I think it's cortisol. Thank you. I wanted to say that, but I figured, was that the medication of the hormone? Okay, cortisol.
Dr. Dieterman, can I drink coffee in here?
Yes, you can if you share it. No, I'm just kidding. Yes. Many times I've brought coffee in here. So, feel free. Yes, the stress hormones are called cortisol hormones. These things are nasty. Now, why did God create them? Because at times it can be your best friend. You step in front of a car, you see the car coming, your stress hormones kick in, your adrenaline rushes in, you become stronger, faster, alert, and think faster than any time in your life. It's built-in mechanism to protect you. But for people that have habitual, that's ongoing, chronic, continual, habitual patterns, thinking patterns of worry, stress, anger, bitterness, this never ends, and it will eat you alive. Disease, cancer, heart disease, you name it, stroke, many, many maladies, often in combination. When this increases, this decreases. Isn't that
So
interesting?
that cortisol is what goes up with the fight and flight response.
Which is normal and good
Yeah.
for the moment.
Yes.
But if it goes on for months and years,
Yeah,
you're
like
will,
forever.
right. It's like if you have a car, 1 foot on the brake, and 1 foot you floor the gas, you're going to wear your brakes out. It's like your body. Yeah. Okay, research. Let's see here. Okay. Now, good thoughts and questions. Thank you. Another area now is stress management can be effectively dealt with by changing our thinking patterns. Stress management. See, either you manage your stress, or I guarantee it will manage you. And life is stress. Changes stress. Love can
Yes.
yes.
To say something.
Yes.
I'm reading a real good book. For the second time, by Joyce Myers. It's called Power Thoughts. It's really, it's talking about changing your thinking and, changing your thinking to more positive instead of negative. And when the negative thoughts come, changing it to a positive and looking at the positive, and then because it's gonna, like you said,
Powerful.
make you sick.
Well, no, thank you for sharing that. Elda, she is getting everything from the New Testament, and it's all there. What I'm doing is I'm showing clinical research to try to even stir and motivate people and make them more aware of what's been there for thousands of years. It's very true. I'm reading a book right now by a medical physician and neurologist, and I forgot to bring it. I was going to read some excerpts from it, so I'll paraphrase it. But basically, there's something called brain, I'll write it down again, but brain plasticity. See, your brain is a living organism continually changing, but we have incredible control on how it changes. One example I just shared with you, reducing stress, you have a better memory, better focus, so on. But I've been talking about physiological changes now in the brain, synapses, all that, neural pathways. As your thinking goes, so goes your brain. As your words go, so go your brain. His premise is this. This is a position, he's not spiritual at all. Is when you use words like bitterness, resentment, anger, hate, fear, you're kicking certain neural pathways in your brain, and your brain is following your words. And your brain begins to alter physiologically and neurologically. There are changes in your brain, which makes it more habitual and more difficult to break out of it, but also it can deteriorate your health and your well-being. And if you step over to the spiritual side, it can separate you from the presence of God, because hate, anger, bitterness is not really compatible. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness. Do you see?
Isn't there a scripture that says where the man goes, the heart follows, or something like that?
That's very good. As a man, also as a man thinks, so is he.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to share that. Yeah. I'm getting off the track, but there's so much stuff. We'll go as far as we can for today. Okay, now stress management. Again, this is research, folks. Positive thinking reduces stress by eliminating negative self-talk. Positive thinking helps with stress management and can even improve your health. The Mayo Clinic, a medical clinic known internationally, known for its research, very reputable, states this: is your glass half empty or half full? How you answer this age-old question about positive thinking may reflect your outlook on life, your attitude toward yourself, and whether you're optimistic or pessimistic, and it may even affect your health. Research fact: optimist, all things being equal, optimist, the longer the pessimist. The more optimistic and positive you are, the longer you shall live and the healthier you shall live. All things being considered, balanced. That is amazing. Understanding positive thinking and self-talk. Positive thinking doesn't mean that you keep your head in the sand or ignore life's less pleasant situations. Positive thinking just means that you approach the unpleasantness in a more positive and productive way. You think the best is going to happen, not the worst. Positive thinking often starts with self-talk. Self-talk is powerful too. Self-talk is the endless stream of unspoken thoughts that run through your head every day. And one research found that we have about 70,000 thoughts per day. Wow. But we have a lot of control over whether they're positive or negative, because we can stop and we can shift. It's not easy, but it is doable. It can really extend your life. These automatic thoughts can be positive or negative. Some of your self-talk comes from logic and reason. Other self may arise from misconceptions that you create because of lack of information. If the thoughts that run through your head are mostly negative, your outlook on life is more likely pessimistic. If your thoughts are mostly positive, you're likely an optimist, someone who practices positive thinking. He continues, the health benefits of positive thinking. Research continues to explore the effects of positive thinking and optimism on health. Health benefits that positive thinking may provide include increased lifespan, lower rates of depression, lower levels of distress, cortisol reduction, greater resistance to the common cold. And by the way, I'm not getting a cold, I'm just getting hoarse because of my talking. Better psychological and physical well-being, reduced risk of death from cardiovascular disease, better coping skills during the hardships and times of stress, better coping skills as well. Stop your negative thoughts and immediately replace them with something you are thankful for. In 1 Thessalonians 5:18, it says, give thanks in all things. This is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you.
Dr. Duderman,
Yes.
I just wanted to say something. You know, I live a very fast, like going here, going there, doing this, doing that, and living with lots of worry and stuff like that. And it's true what you're saying, because look at me now. And this is before the stroke. You know, and I mean, I didn't have high blood pressure or cholesterol, and one day to the next, I used to walk I used to do 300 sit-ups and walk 5 miles a day. And I mean, but that didn't, I never took my time, just relax and do the things I needed to do. I did everything hurrying and rushing from one thing to another, multitasking. And I lost my ability to walk, talk, and I lost my ability to talk for like 4 months and eat and everything. It changed my life, so it's very true what he's saying. I'm living proof of it.
Thank you, Elder. Thank you. I mean, you're a living witness to not just the grace of God, but the power of God. Because how God's using you now in wonderful ways. It's just amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Let's go now to continue research. Hope you find this interesting. I love this stuff. But I figure as one person comes, is someone interested? Okay, so a quick review. Stop your negative thoughts and immediately replace them with something you were thankful for. Okay. Count your blessings. Close your eyes and think of 5 things you're grateful for. I often refer clients to what's called a gratitude journal. This is actually research. It comes under the general category of positive psychology, which has been researched for now 10, 15 years. It is found to be proven, effective, and free. And it's a matter of guiding and directing your thoughts and your self-talk, what you speak, which then guides everything else. Close your eyes and think of 5 things you're grateful for. Thoughts of gratitude alter brain waves in a positive way, which is probably why University of California Davis research has found that people who regularly say thanks enjoy more energy. And in one of my previous lessons, proven fact, you reduce your stress every time you say these 2 words. Does anybody remember? Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Who would have thought? I'm glad I say it a lot. It felt good to say it, but I didn't know why. Now I know why. I'm probably reducing stress. And when someone says, thank you back, a little thing you do and you feel good, this ain't no degrees and levels, but hey, it's still good. It's good at any dosage. I recommend it highly. And sometimes medications like Prozac and many others are needed and necessary. But to be honest with you, this one is much cheaper and no side effects. And it's with you 24/7. You don't have to go for a new prescription. It's built-in prescription. That's pretty cool when you think about it.
I would have to,
So, hey, listen, excuse me. If you got a person, nobody here, of course, but there are people addicted to drugs, get addicted to this. You get addicted to this. That's a good thing.
I started off with 2 Zoloft a day, down to half a Zoloft a night, only one, half of one, and every other day, because of the changes I've been making.
Yes, sure. If people, thank you, Aldo. It's wonderful something you share, because it triggers thoughts I like to add to it, little addendums. When this is practiced, any medication you may be in need of will most likely diminish, because this begins to replace with some of the positive benefits, depression, anxiety, whatever. That's research too, by the way. Okay, now, thank you, everybody. Your thoughts and your words shape your life. Proverbs 23, I won't write them all down unless you ask, but I'll be happy to give them to you. Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinks, so is he. Luke 6:45, Luke, out of the abundance of the heart, the man speaks. So the reason why words begin to alter our neural pathways, the actual brain plasticity, or physiology of the brain, is because what we speak is what we think, and what we think is what we feel. It becomes very intense up here. Okay. Let me lighten the mood a little bit. 50 years of bliss. On their 50th wedding anniversary, a couple summed up the reason for their long and happy marriage. The husband said, "I have tried never to be selfish. After all, there is no I in the word marriage." The wife said, "For my part, I have never corrected my husband's spelling." True story. The next one. A young couple brought their first baby home, a darling little girl. After a few days of dealing with the dirty diapers, the wife suggested that her husband should try his hand at the smelly task. "I'm too busy," he said, "honey. But don't worry, I'll do the next one." 2 hours later, the next time came around, and she asked again. "I'm too busy, honey," he said. "Don't you worry, I'll do the next one." Again, a couple of hours went by, and the diaper needed to be changed again. Again, the husband declined. "You keep telling me you'll do the next one," his wife complained. "But every time she needs a new diaper, you won't change her." The husband looked kind of puzzled and then smiled. "Oh, I meant the next baby." True story. Humor is an amazing tool in reducing stress, increasing your physiological immunity, breaking down barriers, emotional and psychological, and improving the feel-good hormones in the brain, not of the least, which is oxytocin. Proverbs 17:22, a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. Who would have thought a little tiny verse in Proverbs would be so significantly candidly true? And Nehemiah 8:10, the joy of the Lord is my strength. I never saw the depth in that until I started doing research. The joy of the Lord is your strength. It is powerful. Okay, again, some clinical research is titled, "Is Laughter the Best Medicine?" Hold on one second. See if I have my reading glasses. Yes, I do. If I can get it. Excuse me. This is small print. Folks, this is after 60. You got your bifocals and your reading glasses. That's after 60. You know. Okay. Need a good laugh? Here's one to tickle your funny bone. Giggling keeps your heart stronger. Might lower your sugar levels and even enhance your friendships. Researchers studying the health benefits of laughter agree, unlike stress and worry, laughing doesn't hurt us physically or emotionally, and it may even well cure what ails us. Can laughing each day keep the doctor away? Joking around may not heal every ailment, but the health benefits of a good laugh are far-reaching. Here are a few. You can laugh your way to a healthier heart. Researchers have linked laughter to healthier blood vessels. Laughing makes you smarter. Dr. Ron Burke, PhD, retired psychologist from Johns Hopkins Medical School, began telling jokes in class and noticed his students performed better on exams. Folks, if I ever start teaching a class, I'm going to be a comedian because I'll learn more. Laughter attunes people to each other. Humor binds people in a unique way, syncing the brains of the joke teller and listener, says neuroscientist Robert Province, PhD. Well, I have noticed, I don't know if from experience or observing or a combination, when you use humor, it breaks down barriers. When speaking to a class or at a conference or something, humor breaks down barriers. It's amazing. Helps me too. Reduces my stress. I'm speaking in front of a group. And I feel connected. When they laugh at something I say, I feel connected to them, and vice versa. That was this little side free thing here. Let's see. Here we go. Some more. Oh yes. Hang out with happy people. Just as laughing is contagious, so is complaining. So avoid negative people when you can. In families, and in work circumstances, it's difficult, but try at least to reduce the interaction with people that are very negative, because, like the common cold, you can catch it. Laughter is healthy. Again, clinical research done September 2002. The benefits of laughter. Researchers believe laughing can boost immunity, strengthen our hearts, and improve lung function and general health. One study published last year by researchers at Loma Linda University in California, volunteers who watched a video of a comedian showed significant improvement in several immune system functions, such as natural killer cell activity, killing cancer cells. A more recent study by some of the same scientists found that merely anticipating watching a funny video improved mood measures such as tension, depression, and anger as much as for 2 days. I want to show that again because that's a little bit mind-boggling. A more recent study by some of the same scientists found that merely anticipating watching a funny video improved mood measures such as tension, depression, and anger for as much as 2 days. Could our thoughts be that powerful in our lives? Research is showing what God's been telling us for thousands of years, and I think, well, maybe I don't understand it. No, he said what he meant, and what he said. It's phenomenal. And I'm being blown up by myself. Does this mean a happier mood will actually fight disease? That's a $1 million question. Lee Burke, doctor, I guess like medical doctor, assistant professor of family medicine at the University of California, said laughter, quote, laughter moves things in the right direction by benefiting not just the immune system, but the lungs and heart as well. Attending church regularly and praying routinely will increase your health, your lifespan, and your quality of life. Interesting. Again, research, 1999, Society for the Advancement of Education. Can church-going increase lifespan? Studies suggest that church attendance may help contribute to a longer life. This is the article. More than 2,000 residents aged 55 or older were followed for nearly 5 years and their death rates tracked. A host of possible factors that could contribute to health and living longer were recorded to see which might have an effect on longevity. Over the half decade, 454 of these people died. The most significant factor predicting who still lived was attending religious services. For each sex, weekly attendees had the lowest mortality and non-attendees had the highest mortality, indicate researchers Douglas Ullman and Dwayne Reed. Might a trip to the movies help just as much as going to church? Further analysis showed only attending church was significantly associated with mortality. With social support from joining groups such as Rotary Club or the hospital auxiliary show the same health benefits and a longer life as going to church, the research discovered that this was not so when analyzing other social support and meeting attendance. Persons who engaged in volunteer work along with attending religious services were more likely to live longer. So attending church services increases longevity, and then when you're involved with helping others, you magnify it or increase it. Given to be given to you, with measure to be measured to you. Even after controlling for 6 classes of potential confounding and interfering variables, that means everything being considered, we were unable to explain the protection against mortality offered by religious attendance. The researchers concluded. Their finding supports other studies that showed attending religious services was linked with lower blood pressure, fewer deaths from cardiovascular disease, less depression, and a decrease in earlier death from all causes. So I hope to see everybody here next Sunday. My class is over. I'm done teaching. This is my last class, but in church. Okay. Continuation now. The science of prayer and healing. I hope you got your seatbelts on. Tighten them. You may need it. The science of prayer and healing. Many alternative medicine therapies emphasize healing from a holistic mind, body, and spirit perspective. Now, this is secular research now. They use different terminology we use. Many mind approaches to medicine have gained increased acceptance in recent years. What about spirituality? And this is secular research. Almost everyone prays when faced with a traumatic injury, like spinal cord injury or a debilitating disease such as multiple sclerosis, etc. Can this prayer actually help one's health? Substantial scientific research indicates yes. These are not Christians, or even people of any faith in particular at all. Organized religion, good for your health. Scientific studies demonstrate that individuals who participate in organized religion are physically healthier and living longer. This validates the previous research I just read. In addition to the effects of organized religion, prayer, like consciousness, that's their way of saying prayer, also has been shown to exert an influence in numerous scientific studies. Although the effects of organized religion can be explained through readily understanding mechanisms in their perspective, the effects of prayer cannot. Through conscious intent, that means focused prayer, test subjects which are normal volunteers with no special abilities, were able to influence the growth of, you have to see pulse time? Influence the growth of fungus, molds, yeast, and bacteria, often at great distances. These studies imply that prayer has a potential to fight infections. You say, why the heck would they pray for fungus? It's research and prayer. They're not spiritual people. And wow, it works. Interesting. Humans now, people. Prayer-like consciousness, as they term it, has been shown to inhibit the growth of cancer cells. Now it's getting interesting. Protect red blood cells, alter blood chemistry, and increase blood oxygenation. Prayer researcher Jack Stuckey has carried out double-blind studies. Double-blind means they have two groups. One group, they apply the intervention. The other group, no intervention. Later they compare it. Okay? So don't let the jargon throw you off. Prayer researcher Jack Stuckey has carried out double-blind studies evaluating the effects of distant prayer on the body's electromagnetic fields. All living things have an energy. They have demonstrated, they've even photographed, I mentioned this link last week, I think. They've photographed the energy emanating from all living organisms. Though a person, plant, very different, but there's still an energy field. Which makes sense. In these studies, the electrical activity in both the brain and body surface were measured in subjects in his Colorado Springs laboratory nearly 1,000 miles away in California. Spiritual groups would either pray or not pray for the subject. The electrical activity measured in the prayed for subject was significantly altered compared to the controls. Prayer works thousands of miles away. I could pray for somebody in Bangkok, and if my heart is really in it, I'm putting my heart and mind into it, they're going to be affected. That's encouraging. Pray continually. Give thanks in all circumstances. It makes so much more sense now to me. The Bible tells us to pray without ceasing. I can see now why. Wow. Healing through secondary materials. Okay, now you have your seatbelts on, they're tightened. Now put your helmets on. You're going to need it. Healing through secondary materials. Spiritual healers, they're referred to as spiritual healers, for evangelists and so on, have been shown to mediate healing through secondary materials, such as water, surgical gauze, which they have held. You notice that pastor at the altar, he has different objects people can pick up, put on the altar. He doesn't exactly specifically pray over them, but pastor's perspective is the presence of God is in that church, and people's faith are putting it on the altar. Their faith, that's the key. Their faith, that God somehow will touch it in such a way, they'll take it home and will either bless the need. Remember Paul, that he prayed over handkerchiefs and so on, and he laid it on people, and they were physically healed, sometimes spiritually delivered. And you think, well, that was that special for Paul? That's what I thought. But not necessarily. It had to do with people's faith. Someone please turn it off. Healing through secondary materials. Spiritual healings have been shown to mediate healing through secondary materials, such as water or surgical gauze, which they have held. Pray for it. A spectroscopic analysis of healer-treated water indicated an energy-induced shift in the molecular structure of the water. The prayed-for water maintained these altered properties and its effectiveness for at least 2 years. This is secular research. Wow. It is not the materials and the person. This is me talking now, it's not them because they're secular. It is not the materials and is not the person. It is God's response to faith. Oral Roberts, some of you may not remember him, but I grew up with him. He passed away recently. He started Oral Roberts University in a tremendous medical center. Anyway, but for many years he was a healing evangelist, a television program, etc. And he said that he referred to such objects as points of contact for your faith. It's not the handkerchief. It's a person's faith. He was often criticized by that. But no more. Time. Oh, this. Okay, you got your seatbelts on? You got your helmets? Okay, now, hang on tight. Hang on tight. Time displaced prayer. Not only can test subjects influence outcomes over distance, but also, amazingly, they can affect past outcomes. I didn't know that when I read this. And yet it's compatible with Scripture. Quantum physics, that's a particular area of the science of physics. They're the ones that picked up on this electromagnetic energy and so on. Quantum physics is developing theories with insights into non-local, that means at a distance, such as distant prayer. Okay, for example, they call it Bell's theorem, which, supported by experimental evidence, indicates that once subatomic particles, the energy, have been in contact, they always remain connected. A change in one creates a concurrent change in the other, even if they are a universe apart. Some physicists believe that these non-local events are not just limited to subatomic particles, but underlie everyday events, including prayer. To help understand a number of inexplicable phenomena, including non-local events, distant prayer, many physicists believe that a fifth form of energy exists, in addition to gravity, electromagnetic energy, and a strong and weak nuclear energy that operates on different principles. Can this be the Spirit of God? I think so. Okay. Continuation of stress research. Prayer for reducing anger and stress. Suffering from excessive anger or aggression, if you are, will throw away your stress balls. A series of studies conducted at 3 universities show that praying helps dissipate and reduce your anger, whether or not it helps the person you're praying for. The studies were conducted at Ohio State University, University of Michigan, and VU University in Amsterdam. In some of the experimental groups, subjects were provoked to feel angry by design. They were caused to feel angry. After feeling angry, some subjects were told a story and asked to pray for the person in the story. In other situations, subjects were asked to pray for the person who made them angry. The results showed that regardless of who was prayed for, the effects of prayer significantly reduced the subject's feeling of anger. The effects we found in these experiments are quite large, which suggests that prayer may really be an effective way to calm anger and aggression, said Brad Bushman, Ohio State psychology professor and co-author of the study. Of course, he added that the prayers had better be positive ones and not vengeful or hateful ones. So in a matter of speaking, prayer can reduce cortisol and increase oxytocin. Positive words can do that. Positive thoughts can do that. Acts of kindness can do that. Saying thank you. I appreciate that. One time, many years ago, never really told the story before, but it's relevant now. There was a gentleman that I had many years ago, some negative feelings towards. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I didn't like the gentleman. This is way back. Of course, it was a person I knew who said something to someone else that I knew. No, that was me. I was upset. And, but I was also a Christian. So I tried to, what I chose to do, without knowing any of this research, I chose to try to deliberately, not feeling it, deliberately say some nice things about him, and I did. It wasn't easy. Because some of the things I could have said that I wanted to say. But I said a few little nice things about him. And I remember this day, I actually felt a little bit more love. I felt peace. The anger was gone. I felt less stress. I felt good. This is really good. Well, I didn't know anything about that. I never heard of this at all. Didn't know anything, any of this. This was years ago, 20, 30 years, 25. But I felt better just saying something nice about him. Purposely, deliberately, not feeling it before I said it. Not feeling it before I said it. Not wanting to say it. I mechanically said it. It altered my brain and my brain chemicals. I'm going to step out in a sense, but I believe that if I had time, I could show it clinically. Scripturally, easy, but clinically as well. If you can mechanically, an old expression, fake it till you make it, don't try to feel it, you may never do it. But watch your words and make them positive. Watch your actions and make them positive. Stop your negative thoughts the best you can and kick into something positive, anything positive, anywhere, anytime. And your brain will begin to change physiologically. It will also help you heal emotionally, and it will help you heal physically as well. Now, all that being said, since we are in the essential class, it will help you tremendously spiritually as well. God can use a vessel of love and kindness, not anger and resentment. God wants to fellowship with us. He's knocking all the time. He's always there. He wants to fellowship and flow and use us, communicate to us, love us, help us feel loved by Him. Only we can hinder it. And we're the only ones that can hinder it. If we're in control of that door, we can open that door and let Him in. And that's true. So, you have to feel good first? No. Just mechanically do what God's told you to do, and He'll help you take you by the hand, help you out of that hole, I believe. Yes, sir.
That article on laughter, the one with the little bit of print, the very bottom part of that, read it.
Second. I can find it, honey. I don't know. Small print. The bottom of it? The last part?
Wasn't it several pages?
Yeah, it was two. Hang out with happy people?
No. It was about a project of people deciding for a certain amount of time.
I'm sorry, I can't find it right now. What was it about?
Well, this group of people decided that for 30 days they were going to do their best. I think it's taken in over millions of people now that have gotten in with this. Is they decide, like, for 30 days to change what they're saying and the positive, being more positive. And it was just about the changes in their own situations. It gave them enough time to see that what they were doing was actually having an effect. It wasn't sporadic. They were consciously making an effort or choosing to say good things about people, to be but it was interesting.
Yes, it was. I didn't know about that. But that's New Testament 101. It really, really is. But aside from that, research supports it. Research is becoming such a concurrency now and agreement in what they're showing. And it's coming much of it's coming in the general category of positive psychology, which I like. Because you're teaching New Testament principles to clients and they didn't believe in God. But it's still beneficial, helpful at least.
That makes a lot of sense, because sometimes people will say, and this person, how's it going? And just the name of the person, you might be angry. And I've been trying this, not to say anything negative about that person, because what's in your heart is going to come out of your mouth. So I have to really choose they'll say a name about someone and I'm mad at, and I want to like go in and all the negative, like complaining, but I'm like, no, I'm trying to change my outlook. And so I'll say, oh yeah, they look really nice today, something, something positive.
Thank you, Hilda. Thank you. You reminded me of something. My wife and I were flying back from Tampa, and we were worried about missing our flight, and we eventually did have to get a ride there because time was so limited. But anyway, we asked the gentleman, what gate do we go to, all this, and he said something. We asked him to repeat it. He says, well, I'm not going to repeat it again. This is, really, really kind of upset.
Rude.
Yeah, rude. So now, just understand, I'm not going to say this again. One more time is going to be it, because he was stressed. In all fairness, he was stressed. So my wife says, well, she says, thank you very much. And I said, thank you, I appreciate your help. And I said, Terry, thank you for thanking me. She says, I didn't mean it. Well, before God in heaven, I didn't mean it either. But I said it mechanically. One, I did it for him.
Yeah.
But I did it for me, too. And by saying thank you, I appreciate it with as much kindness as I could, helped me.
Mine was a little
No, hers went twice, so here's my thank you very much. But I said, thank you very much, I appreciate your help. I shot back that negativity with positivity and the love of Christ. I shot back. And it helped me. Then as my wife and I were briefly talking about it, I said, it's a shame. Because he's under stress, obviously. And if he only knew that words of kindness and courtesy reduces stress, I think he'd feel a whole lot better off. And by sharing that, I felt a whole lot discouraged. Because I was upset from him. I admit it. So was my wife. So it's amazing.
Sometimes it'll actually stop the other person's actions. And sometimes people get into a natural mode of rudeness and they're not aware of it, and it takes an act of someone saying some kind words that stops them in their track. Oh my God, I was a little rude, my tone might have been off. But sometimes that's what it takes, and it does take effort to always be polite and always try to be aware of one's actions.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. That is a super fact, and also New Testament as well.
And sometimes it's helpful when people mistreat you or do something rude or unkind. You're probably not even the one,
That
triggered it. It could be something that
Right.
happened in the morning, especially if you work with kids. We did our CPI training Friday, and just to realize that when you have a student that acts out, you may not be the person that you're just the one that got it. You're not the one that triggered it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes
It often happens.
it's hard not to take things personal,
It is.
but sometimes if you can not take things personal, you can react in a better way.
Right. And yes, thank you. And if you keep in mind that by us directing and choosing our words carefully, as well as our thoughts, we help ourselves a lot. So take care of yourself in spite of other people. Reducing cortisol, increasing oxytocin. Now, oxytocin, that's an amazing chemical because you won't believe this, but if you try it enough, I think you'll eventually realize that that is some validity to this. Being courteous to people will trigger that, especially when your response is positive and thankful. For years, I've always opened, I was brought up in a certain way where you say please, you say thank you, you say excuse me, you open the door. I was trained that way. I did it all my life. I didn't realize that actually by doing kind things for people, and a simple thank you increases that. Now I realize why I felt good doing it. Years ago, years ago, when it was safer than it is today, we'd be on like a trip, like a vacation, and we'd stop if someone had a flat tire, especially if it was a woman by herself, with children especially. But sometimes a couple, well, frequently a couple as well, doesn't matter. We'd stop and we'd try to change a tire, to drive into a gas station. One summer we did that 2 or 3 times.
No,
4 times? Okay. I felt good. I was trying to be a good Christian. But I also felt good. I had no idea that's what it was.
But
In part. And the Holy
you know
Spirit, of
that-
course, not
that summer, that was all paid off in the end, because at the end of our vacation, our car broke down, and we were at a church in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, Willie George's church, and they just took care of us. We spent the night at a professor at ORU's home. He took all 4 of us in, my 2 kids and Brian and I. They got somebody that they knew, a mechanic, to fix our car, and it was just like the things that had gone on before, we reaped the.
Thank you for remembering
That
that.
was an awesome summer. It was just like,
That was.
wow, God really sees when you
Yeah,
do.
yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I momentarily forgot about that. Thank you. Because what we did, and feeling good about it, could be explained this way. But what happened later is other gentlemen who helped us, or people that helped us, had no idea what we'd done earlier. That was God.
Yeah.
Given to be given to you. Isn't it amazing? I'm just sharing how God made us, about what God does in the whole level.
Yeah.
But it's really amazing. Amazing. I'm going to go, with everyone's permission. Everyone has to leave, I understand that, so it's quite all right. But I'm going to go a few minutes over, because I think I can actually finish this lesson. I'm going to try. Okay. Forgiveness is one of the most difficult things to do, but also one of the most beneficial. I'm going to get kind of, believe it or not, it doesn't happen very often. Happened to me one time in my life. Only. The Lord actually spoke to my spirit where He woke me up from a deep sleep. One time only. He actually spoke to me inside, but it was so loud inside, I woke up. And I remember He said, forgiveness is your lifeline to God. I thought that was interesting. Never forgot that. A chronic, unforgiving unforgiving attitude causes stress. Every time people think of their transgressor, their body responds. Decreasing your unforgiving attitude will cut down your health risk. Now, if you can forgive, that can actually strengthen your immune system, according to Virginia Commonwealth University. Forgiveness could boost the immunity system by reducing the production of stress hormones, cortisol. Rockefeller University, New York. A new study from Duke University Medical Center demonstrates that those who forgive others experience lower levels of chronic pain and less associated psychological problems like anger and depression than those who have not forgiven. Continues, this is a quote, I have collected 57 extremely well-documented so-called cancer miracles. At a certain particular moment in time, they decided that the anger and depression were probably not the best way to go, since they had such little time left. And so they went from that to being loving, caring, no longer angry, no longer depressed, and able to talk to the people they loved. These 57 people had the same pattern. They gave up totally their anger, and they gave up totally their depression by specifically making the decision to do so. And at that point, tumors started to shrink. Yale Medical School, Dr. Bernie Siegel, clinical professor of surgery. Some additional research here. Forgiveness puts you back in control of your life. Trouble forgiving? Try prayer. In one study, volunteers who prayed for those they held a grudge against were more willing to move past their anger. Prayer triggers compassion, which helps resentment fade. And I'll throw in that, there are some times I have trouble praying for people because the thoughts keep flooding in of their behavior and words which are hurtful or destructive or have been hurtful and destructive. What I do, it may not work for you, is I pray for that person's soul. I say, Lord, forgive them, heal them. Don't let them miss you in this life. And it enables me to pray for them, and then I feel better towards them. After I've done it. It works. The applicability of positive perspective. The applicability of positive perspective. Positive thinking and gratitude. Gratitude, that's thankfulness, being thankful for things. Gratitude has long been extolled by religion and in recent years has drawn attention through books. Dr. Emmons' book reports on several studies. In the first, researchers divided participants into 3 groups, each of which made weekly entries in a journal. One group wrote 5 things they were grateful for, another group described 5 daily hassles, and a control group listed 5 events that affected them in some way. Those in the gratitude group felt better about their lives overall, were more optimistic about the future, and reported fewer health problems than the other participants. Results from a second study suggested that daily writing led to a greater increase in gratitude than weekly practice. So what I often recommend to clients is they start a weekly gratitude, we call it that, journal. Live longer by appreciating your own good heart. Paying attention to your own acts of kindness. I'm almost done. Paying attention to your own acts of kindness, such as opening doors for strangers, can lengthen your life by 8 years or more. Oh, thank you. I'm going to say it again. That's worth repeating. Paying attention to your own acts of kindness, I enjoyed opening the door for that person, or I'm glad I had the opportunity to open the door for them, whatever. Or just being aware of what you're doing, thinking about it. Awareness. Paying attention to your own acts of kindness, such as opening doors for strangers, can lengthen your life by 8 years or more. Studies suggest. Turns out the good feeling that comes from giving others a helping hand cuts your production of the damaging stress hormone, cortisol, by up to half. This is powerful medicine, and it doesn't need to take a lot of your time, says Drew Orton, medical physician and a plastic surgeon at UCLA School of Medicine. He said, I volunteer for a Smile Train, which is a program, which teaches doctors in poor countries how to repair children's cleft lips and palates, and has truly changed my life. Isn't that amazing? I find that amazing. Thankfulness. It doesn't really work if you do it only once a year, says Sanja Lyon-Bomersky, professor of psychology at University of California, Riverside. Practicing gratitude is like exercising, says Robert Emmons, professor of psychology at the University of California. Use it and you won't lose it, even when times are tough. Lyon-Bomersky and Emmons are among researchers who have studied the power of gratitude and learned, for example, that people with high blood pressure not only lower their blood pressure, but feel less hostile and are more likely to quit smoking and lose weight when they practice gratitude. People who care for relatives with Alzheimer's disease feel less stress and depression when they keep daily gratitude journals, listen to positive things in their lives, anything they're thankful for. Those who maintain a thankful attitude through life appear to have lower risk of several disorders, including depression, phobias, bulimia, and alcoholism. Most people can lift their mood simply by writing a letter of thanks to someone. Hand deliver the letter. And the boost of happiness can last for weeks or months. I didn't know that. Wow. I'm going to write a thank you note to somebody. Practicing gratitude in these systematic ways changes people by changing brains that are wired for negativity. Again, practicing gratitude in these systematic ways changes people by changing brains that are wired for negativity. Neural pathways. They're continually changing. When you express a feeling, you amplify it. When you speak out your feeling, you're amplifying it. When you express anger, you get angrier. When you express gratitude, you become more grateful. Life and death in the power of the tongue. That scripture has more meaning for me than it ever did before. Ever. And grateful people, he says, don't focus so much on pain and problems. They also are quicker to realize they have friends, families, and communities to assist them in times of need. They see how they can help others in distress as well. After 9/11, many people reported increased feelings of gratitude, says Chris Peterson, a professor of psychology at the University of Michigan. Quote, no, I'm sorry, not a quote. It's too soon for studies on the influence of the nation's financial meltdown, but Peterson says he hears a lot of people counting their blessings these days. There are people who say it could be worse. Someone don't let me forget to give these out, please. In fact, I won't continue on, but I will share close with this. Anybody wonder what these we're doing here? It's called an object lesson. When you become humor, visualization, or stories that are relevant to people can be very powerful teaching tools. I learned the visual part actually in Mexico, and as an elementary teacher as well, and middle school. Anyway, this cup represents unforgiveness. This cup represents resentment. This cup represents anger. This cup represents bitterness. This cup represents fear. Every day we have any words, actions, or thoughts, we're drinking from that cup. And every one is a poison. Every cup has poison in it. Physiologically, psychologically, neurologically, and spiritually, they are all poison. Now, while life will generate these feelings and thoughts, of course it will. But they don't have to remain. We are empowered to not allow these things to manage us. We can manage them. And that's what we've been talking about the last several sessions, especially this one. Instead of all of these different poisons, I can choose to stop, demonstrate an act of kindness. Maybe another person caused it, someone else. See, if a person is causing this, they may, Lord, God bless them, may never stop doing these things that cause these things. But I can go somewhere else. In my mind, in my body, with my words, I go somewhere else and use words of kindness, acts of kindness. Think of things I'm thankful for, and I'm basically pushing the poison back.
Can I just add
And I'm drinking quite the opposite: life, health. There's an old saying: "Show me who your friends are, I'll show you who you are." Jesus said, "You know them by their fruit." Yes.
we have no control over anybody's actions. The only ones we have control are our own actions. So if they're mean or rude or whatever, us getting all mad and upset about it is not going to change the fact that they're being like that. So we have a choice to make whether we want to act mean and rude back or want to act with a positive feedback to that person.
Thank you, Alda. I'm going to give you a medical term, brain plasticity. Our brains, because they're so intricately wired with neural pathways and synapses, etc., and perfectly balanced and varying chemicals, is so complex. It's not only living, but because it's living, it's continually changing. But we have the power to a great degree on how it changes. And we can simply develop new neural pathways that are positive, and by doing that, what will happen automatically is the negative neural pathways, the anger, bitterness, resentment, they begin to decrease. The thought patterns, the thought habits begin to decrease as we choose to focus more on the positive, hopeful things, positive things, with the many different approaches that I shared. And you live longer, healthier, even have a better memory, according to research. Well, I'm going to close. Any thoughts at all? Or any questions? Thank you, everybody. Thank you for everybody being here. I'm sorry it's getting hot, but I wanted the audience to be picked up on the night. Yes.
I remember a saying we used to have on one of your other classes, unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah. It does say a lot.
I just want to say something.
Thank you.
Something that you mentioned to stay positive. I work with an agency that is pure negativity. We work with people with disabilities. And at first it was so hard for me. I was drinking all of that, all those glasses there.
Yeah, that's you know.
But I changed my mind of thinking that I'm helping people with disability, and I was feeling good about myself because they were thanking me. The clients were thanking me, so I said, okay, as long as they're fine, they're happy, and that I'm helping. So that's kind of changing me now. So I'm staying more focused on that.
Thank you.
So just let everyone know, as long as you stay focused on something positive, you'll feel better about yourself and your health, your well-being.
Thank
So
you.
it does work.
Thank you. Nora, let me see if I understood what you're saying now. This sounds very important. You chose, rather than thinking on your circumstances, which you couldn't change, and life is what it is, you chose to go somewhere else here to a point where you can focus on something you're thankful for. You changed your perspective. You chose to change your perspective by changing your thought patterns. You're thankful you can help people. You're thankful you can make a difference in their lives. You're thankful you can show kindness to them. And sometimes you show kindness to some people, well, the only people who do. Thankfully, you can be actually helpful in a real way to people, wherever it was. And you focus on that. And it reduced your stress, didn't it?
Yes.
You lowered your cortisol. And if you felt kind of happy, or a little bit kind of happy or joyful, but helping somebody?
I felt, yes, the stress was a lot, because my stress levels were high. I had mainly a lot of fear because with this new job, you know, my probation, they're going to like me or they're going to let me go, because they're very negative. Even our supervisors, which I'm praying for, they're very negative. They just don't see it. And I work with the deaf, and they're always saying it's a very difficult case. I don't see it difficult. I see more difficult. I have more problems with them than with the consumer. So I changed it. I said, okay, you know what? As long as the clients, they're getting what they need, and they're being satisfied, and I work mainly with them, and I see their happiness, that stress
Yes.
just went, whew, and
There you
the
go.
fear,
That went down.
still a little bit there, but I'm working on that.
You're managing it. You're managing it. Okay. I'm not saying we're going to reach a panacea 24/7, but we certainly can improve our situation and our health and our lives. I'm going to show one more thing. I'll share one more thing quickly, and I'll close. I'm sorry the extra time, but thank you for being here this evening. I appreciate it. I'm almost hesitant to share this, but now that I started, I guess I'll open the can of worms and I'll just share it. Because I don't want to be misconstrued. In the scientific laboratory, in the area of quantum physics and also in the psychological clinical area of positive psychology. I put those together frequently, even though they're different areas of science, because it dovetails so beautifully, so frequently. But what they discovered is that people have an energy. Remember I told you living beings have energy? And that living energy can affect people around you. One researcher did say, and I didn't realize it, I think he's so right, he really knew something that I didn't know he knew. He said 85% of communication is nonverbal. So I figured, okay, you got the extraverbal, you got the body language, okay, but 85%? Nonverbal, non-extraverbal? 85%? But now it makes sense. People pick up unconsciously the energy of someone else. The emotions, if you will. We can pick it up. You're with somebody, and all of a sudden you feel a fear. Are they sure a little something, but you feel such fear? Anger. Happiness. Joy. Faith. Whatever. So basically, we pick up things unconsciously many times, and non-verbally. We pick that up. So there's a communication, different levels. This is biological stuff. This is nothing spooky. So, when you choose to think and act positively, you can have a positive impact on others. Well, you alluded to it earlier. I'm just going a little deeper on what you already said. There's certain levels of that. Not just the outward level, which is very powerful all by itself, but there's an undercurrent as well. I'm sorry, you're going to start with that. I'm sorry. So basically, as our mind goes, as a man thinks, so is he. But also, you get a positive effect or negative effect on others by what you're thinking and feeling at the same time. And I went off the limb on that one, but this is scientific research. I'm going to close with that. I want to thank everybody for being here. So I'll stay back for any